Hughes would like to come up, and Jim Hughes, President Emeritus Campaign Line Coalition. I'd like to invite him up right now.
Jim.
Ever since we had our picture taken together and it went across the country, Frank, we can't stop you. It's great to be here. Unfortunately, after 40 years in the front lines of the pro-life movement, as I hear people talking this evening, so many different thoughts came forward that, holy crow, how will I ever be able to speak tonight? But you know, it's really amazing when you say, is it possible that somebody's educable? Remember Tom Wappel. For 20 years he was a pro-life member of Parliament, ran for the leadership of the Federal Liberal Party. The day that I met him was in the Bond Place Hotel. We were having lunch together and he said, yes, I think I'm going to run. I only have the exceptions for rape and incest and not and the guy that I was with, a man called Dan McCash, who was a great pro-life fighter, got up and said, well, that's it for him. I'm leaving. Come on, let's go. I said, no, we're not leaving. We're going to talk to him. And we continued to talk to him, and then I just sent him information. And about 2 weeks later, he said, let's talk again. And in the end, he was pro-life. And we were able to support him. And he ran in a riding which was NDP, then the next time was Conservative, then was Liberal, then NDP, and then one of the few ridings in Canada where all three main parties would elect the MP. So he held that seat for 20 years. And people said, well, shh, don't tell them you're pro-life. And he said, just stand up and tell them. I'm pro-life. I'm opposed to the killing of children before birth. Now I'll move on to the next thing. And that's what he did. There was another guy, too, that I knew. I had lunch with him one time in Washington, D.C. His name was Dr. Bernard N. Nathanson. He was one of the founders of the pro-abortion movement. He and Betty Friedan and Larry Laidler, they were the founders. And he changed his mind. And he wasn't in favor of gestational in the end. He was 100% pro-life. And what influenced him? All sorts of things, he told me. But one day he was walking through the streets of New York and it was so hot, you had to get out of the heat. There was this church, St. Patrick's Cathedral, and he went in there and he saw an empty pew at the back. There was some service going on, and he sat there and started to refresh himself. And then at one point, this young couple in front of him turned to him and said, "The peace of Christ, Dr. Nathanson." They knew who I was, and they were offering me this peace of Christ? What the heck? So he said, I stumbled out. I stumbled out of the church. I couldn't believe it. But in the end, he found that the pro-life people that he encountered, this wonderful grassroots people out there, they loved him. And as a result of that, he changed his mind. How can the guy that started the pro-abortion movement change his mind? He did it because people were praying for him and they were treating him like a human being. I had one opportunity which was sort of positive with the late abortionist Henry Morgenthau. And Henry's birthday was on March the 19th. And that's the feast of St. Joseph for any of the Catholics in the crowd. So I would ask people to do a novena, that is a certain number of days consecutively in prayers for abortionist Henry Morgenthau. And I did that for many years. So on a special birthday, two of my buddies decided to take me out for lunch. And so I went to my favorite restaurant in downtown Toronto. I can tell you the name. I wouldn't have done it years ago because I'd never get a seat. It was Spadina Gardens, and it was fabulous. So we went in there, packed as usual. Table next to us is Henry Morgenthau. So I nod to him. He nods back. We sit down and we order our food, and we're having it all finished. All of a sudden I feel his presence beside me. So I stand up and say, how are you, Henry? I got old man problems, you know, all kinds of ailments and whatnot and whatnot. Does anybody ever tell you you do a good job on TV? I said, my mother, maybe. So I introduced him to my seatmates. And one of them, Dick Cochran, who was the main man at 8 to Women, didn't catch his name when he was introduced. Later on, he said, geez, he looked like Henry Morgan. Anyway, I said to him, "Now, Henry, this and this and this," and he said, "Yeah, I know. And he had told me previously, you're never going to win. You're never going to win. Why are you wasting your time?" Out the back of the Morgentaler Mortuary, I've aborted the mistresses of judges, cabinet ministers, and cops. You're never going to win. I said, "Do you mind if I keep trying?" And he just sort of smirked. So in the restaurant, as he was leaving, we said our goodbyes, and then at the door, which was not too far from here to Sister, I said to him, "Hey, Henry." And he turned around and I said, "I'm still praying for you." And he smiled and he said, "Thank you." And off he went. People at the tables around there rushed over and said, "Was that who we think it was?" I said, "Henry Morgenthau." "Oh, are you a friend of his?" "No, no." And the woman said, "You're John Hughes, aren't you?" I said, "No, I had my name changed. I'm Jim Hughes." I said, "What did you say to him as he was leaving?" I said, "I reminded him that I was praying for him." "Oh. And what did he say to that?" He said, "Thank you." Oh. So this pregnant woman and 2 other people from 3 different tables went back to their tables and told the other folks what was going on. Now you say, well, so what? What the heck? What is that? Years later, when it became public knowledge that the government of Quebec was sending late-term abortions to Tiller the Killer in Wichita, Kansas, before I could get a statement out with the press, who had his statement out? Henry Morgentaler, saying, "I do abortions before they become human beings. What they're doing is tantamount to baby killing." What? Henry Morgentaler saying that he used to do those late-term abortions. You know what? I was just a Sunday Catholic until I got into the pro-life movement. Then I became a daily Catholic. Watch it. And then I met all kinds of people from other faith communities, and they encouraged me and I encouraged them, and we all became stronger as a result of all that. The secret to everything is prayer. And then go and do something. People said, "Oh, you're retired." No, I'm not. I just cut down from 100 hours a week down to about 60. I promised my wife I'd go down to 40. But how do you stop doing the work when there are babies being killed and older people getting off as well? You can't. You keep going. And one of those people here in Ottawa that's been doing this for so long is a guy I hired because he had great hair. He had a wonderful hairdo up like this, but it looks like he got his hair cut, and his wife probably forced him to do that before he came here this evening. But my great friend, Paul Lauzon, decided that he should take it a little bit easier. Not for health problems at all. Probably to spend a little more time with his good wife, but he's still working, still doing the pro-life work. And tonight I think we should all recognize in a special way the work of an ordinary person. I'm an ordinary person. You're all ordinary people. And that's the strength of the pro-life movement. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things for God. And what's an extraordinary thing? My friend Bob Sear just died this week. He's from Kincardine. I couldn't get to his funeral, too hard to do it. But Bob Sear was at a meeting in Toronto where our guest speaker was the founder of First Things magazine. And he referred to Bob and he said, you know, as long as there are grassroots Canadians like this man, Bob Sear, you got nothing to worry about. So in the little thing I sent to his family, I mentioned what John Newhouse had said at that meeting 25 or 30 years ago. As long as there are great people like Bob Sear, you've got nothing to worry about. And if they held the spotlight here on each and every one of you, they could say the same thing. As long as you've got people like Eileen Stiles, as long as you've got people like Frank, and you go all the way through, that's what this movement's all about. And we can't give up or back down and say, hey, wait a minute, we've got to get something. No. God told Moses, thou shalt not kill. He didn't say after 12 weeks gestation or whatever. Thou shalt not steal, except if your boss isn't paying you properly. Thou shalt not commit adultery, unless your wife's out of town visiting her sister. You know, all this. It's plain and simple stuff, and Paul Lauzon has exemplified that over so many years. And Campaign Life Coalition is certainly poorer that Paul isn't working full-time with us any longer, but we're here to celebrate Paul's work for the unborn and for Almighty God, because that's what Paul believes, and we all believe the same thing. It's our great pleasure to bring Paul Lauzon up. But since it wasn't ready, we're going to give him this one instead.
A lot like somebody I know. Somebody that will know me one day. Well, thank you very much. It's very nice to see all of you here. And it's true what Jim said, that I'll be working a little less, but we never retire from the cause, and that's for sure. But now I can really tell you what I really think about Campaign Life Coalition. Yeah, what I really think about Campaign Life Coalition is, I can tell you a story. There was a big boat, like some kind of a, you know, those boat that goes from island to island with tons of people on it. What do they call them, cruise boats or something? There's a big boat like this, and yeah, they hit a big storm, a very big storm, and they were kind of wavy and like this, and the captain was kind of getting a little wary about everything. And so, but they see a little light in the far in the fog and the waves and all this. They see a little light in the back. So the captain got a little tired and said, well, I'm going to phone them up and say, hey, Mayday, Mayday, this is captain of the big cruise boat, and we have a lot of people here on board, and we ask you to move about 12
Degrees?
12 degrees to the south. We might have a collision. And after a while, the little light in there, the guy in the boat was answering. He said, we order you, Captain, to move 12 weeks to the other side, 12 degrees back on the other side. And that went on for about 4 or 5 or 6 times. You know? I mean, there was an exchange between the small light that they could see in the corner and the big boat, and he was getting upset. So finally, the captain was very, very upset about all this, and he said, I can't move this big boat. He said, I've got to go straight where I'm going. I can't move. I order you to move 12 degrees aside. And after a little while, it was almost too late for anything to happen. There would be a collision. And the little light answered back and said, I am the lighthouse. Now, the lighthouse is Campaign Life Coalition and Jim Hughes. And the cruise boat is all of the other groups that are gestational together coming in a way trying to fix our situation with the unborn. So, what can I say, eh? I mean, Campaign Life has been holding the light all the time. Jim Hughes especially never wavered from this. It could have went all kinds of other ways, and we still want to protect children from the moment that they are conceived. And we can't do any otherwise. I mean, you heard it said about gestational gestation. You have something about on your sheets there about all kinds of things that could be brought forward, but any law would allow abortion. So we don't need a law. We need a law that would say what is a human being and when does a child become a human being, and that is at conception. And until we have that, there's nothing in the law that we can protect. So, anyway, I'll be still working with Campaign Life here and there, like you said, as a consultant. Now I have more time to myself, and it takes a longer time to go shopping now. I don't bring my credit card, but I take a lot more time shopping and go around and take it easy, and I'll be doing that probably for the rest of the year until I decide what I'll be doing next year. I'll leave you with this for now. I want to write a book eventually, so there'll be a lot of questions. If you have any questions, I'll take a few questions now, but I think time is pressing.
Hey, Paul.
There was a question for you, David Cousin.
Oh, go ahead, David.
Hey, Paul. What is your most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment with Campaign Life Coalition, I guess that was higher. I was working with Suhurla High way back then, and Jim was leaving the office, and there was a discussion about hiring somebody and something, and Jim asked him, he said, well, what does he do? And she said, well, he does everything. He's indispensable to the office. So Jim hired him, and so that was it. Now, the most beautiful moment, I think, is when somebody comes and say, thank you for the pro-life movement for being shown up, whether at any kind of event, because we have now a 5-year-old child, and it's because of you that I changed my mind. And that happened a couple of times, and happened to Frank Mountain when he was around, and that is the most memorable thing. It's a proof that all of the work that we've done, that we are going to do, has at least saved one life. I mean, and hardship for the one mother, I think it's worthwhile. And I think that's the most beautiful moment that there is ever.
But this gentleman, well, you might know it, you might not know it, all these beautiful pictures, March for Life, pro-life masses, anything that goes on connected with pro-life. Paul was always there in the background with his camera. And even last night, the 40 days, he's got it all on Facebook. And this is another one of his good hobbies.
Everybody thinks all the pictures are from me.
It's okay, but you don't need most of them.
Yes?
What are you intending to write?
I'd like to write about not the fact that the pro-life movement is barking at the wrong tree, but that I think that the principal thing that we have to do is to bring back the dignity of women, not the so-called reproductive aspect of women, but the procreative aspect of women, which has been rejected by society. There's a lot of things going on about feminism, about women, women's rights and all this, but we don't want the woman. We want the woman without the procreative aspect. And I think that to bring attention to that, I think would be a great advancement.
Are you, understand the way you said it, your sister, are you saying it's a worthwhile thing for a woman when she gets married and gets pregnant to want to be pregnant and to stay home and take care of the kids? Is this what you're talking about when you say the dignity of the woman, the ability to conceive? Is this what you're talking about?
Not necessarily, because every woman, as a matter of fact, nobody comes on earth without passing through a woman for 9 months, living in sacred water of the womb. And I think this has been rejected by everything that we see about feminism, about women, about anything. Even when we talk about abortion, we don't talk about the sacredness of how do any human being come to earth. how does the spirit, it's the story of the incarnation.
So what you're saying is, to be a housewife, to raise a family, is a very important and dignified thing, because the other trend is get a job and rise through the glass ceiling of big business.
No matter what, whether it's a woman that stays at home or a woman at work, it doesn't matter. The value of the woman, regardless of children or family or work or whatever, the value of a woman is the sacredness that we have rejected, because that's how we come to earth.
Okay.
And
But
that's
they do
basically it.
say, her rights here, rights there. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about sacredness.
I just wanted to add, Frank mentioned the photograph that Paul was taking. I'm taking great advantage of his amazing archive that he has collected of all the different documents that were of consequence, both the Canadian documents and also international documents that Paul has been made aware of through his years working for Camping Life, and that he collected. And it is an absolutely invaluable archive, because now with the various projects regarding the new law that actually he mentioned, the defense of human life and so on, it all has to be built on the foundation that exists. We have to make reference to what people have already done, both locally and internationally. And thanks to all the information that Paul collected, I can be made aware. I've been working on it 1 year, so this is all new to me. This is a really steep learning curve. So I'm very grateful to Paul for having collected all this information and made it available.
Hi, and I would just like to say I've had the pleasure of working with Paul for the last 20 years. He's been a fantastic example to us of someone who's dedicated his life to fighting for the protection of unborn children. And we have a few other things for him. One thing Paul said, he always liked to go out for a great steak dinner. So we have a gift certificate for Al's Steakhouse for him. And we also have some Senators tickets for a game this coming October or November. So just when the young Senators, they're up and coming young stars, are going to be hitting the ice, Paul, you can pick which game you want to go to in October and November.